Thank you, Sheriff. Invocation tonight would be Commissioner Whitaker and our pledge by Commissioner Johnson. So please remain standing.
God, our heavenly and loving Father, we thank you for another day of grace, Lord. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your presence with us tonight. We ask for a blessing upon this assembly. Heavenly Father, we pray and we thank you for the service of our outgoing Mayor Chambers. We thank you for the service and the hard work of Commissioner Jewell and Pro Tem Ferguson and all of those departed commissioners, Lord. Ask your grace continue to be with them. And Heavenly Father, we ask your blessing upon the incoming new Mayor-elect, Mayor McCall. Heavenly Father, and bless us returning commissioners. Heavenly Father, let us represent and let us stand fast and let us be first of all be led by you, my Father. And Heavenly Father, let us bear the burden of the trust that our constituents have placed upon us. And Heavenly Father, after we've done all that we could do on this side of life, please take it from labor unto reward and step on that promise that you told us in your word. In the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and our Savior, we already count it done. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Do our roll call. Please check in, commissioners. And everyone all checked in. You have 19 present, 1 absent. First item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the July 25th, 2022 commission meeting. They've been distributed. Are there any changes, deletions, corrections to those minutes? Mr. Walsh? Have a motion to approve. Mr. Ford has a second. Okay. No additions, no deletions, no corrections. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Like sign, they are approved. Way of announcements tonight, don't have a lot. Want to appreciate everyone, let everyone know we appreciate you coming out. It's a good crowd. I wish every meeting we had this kind of a crowd here with us, and certainly appreciate you being here. And we'll try to move on through our business as quickly as we possibly can. Kind of a bittersweet night for some of us that will be leaving. A lot of people put a lot of effort in, and a lot of excitement with the ones that are new coming on and those that are coming back. And I think it's going to be a really great commission going forward. And certainly we want to wish everyone the best. And even though I won't be your chairman, I want you to know that I will always be available to take your calls if there's anything I can help you with. Were there any other announcements, commissioners? Anyone have anything? Mayor, do you have anything in the way of announcements? No, sir. Okay. Do have a few things that we want to add to your agenda. You had a new copy at your desk that are highlighted with those items. I think most of these were talked about in our work session last week. The first one is the budget amendment for the UT Extension Office. That one is BA 10103FB for $435. We've added it under item C under the budget amendments with your approval. Also, it's we need to acknowledge the bond authorization of the bond issue for the newly elected offices. And we've added that. That's under other business. Item 12, the item B. Also, we had an authorization that TDOT is requesting for the property over on Broadway to be able to enter that property to do their assessments on what needs to be done with that. And this is just to give the mayor permission and our acknowledgement of that. So we added that under other business as well. We also have 3 notaries that Rita gave us that we'll take up toward the end of the business. We'll go through our regular order of business tonight, and the very last thing we'll do will be the oath of office for the newly elected commissioners. Mr. Harsh.
Move to set the agenda. Move to set the agenda with the additions just mentioned.
Have a motion to set the agenda as indicated. Mr. Taylor. Second. Have a motion by Mr. Harsh and a second by Mr. Taylor. All in favor, please say aye. Okay. Any opposed? Okay, our agenda is set. Next is the citizens' response to the agenda items. If you wish to speak to the commission about any matter on this month's agenda, we would like for you to please come up and sign in. There's a sign-in sheet on the podium over here. And so that we can make sure that we acknowledge you at the right time. If there's anyone would wish to speak. Certainly, if you're one of the petitioners on some of the items, we will recognize you if needed. You don't need to sign in. But any member of the public that wishes to speak on any of the agenda items, please come up and sign in. Is there anyone else? Okay. All right. Mayor, move into the mayor's report. Mayor Chambers.
The first item I have is our Veteran Service Officer, Nathan Vaughn, that we hired recently, has left us. He has got another job that required that he cannot be an employee of a state or local government, so he had to resign that position. So that is now opened up, and I believe that'll be an item for the next administration to deal with. We still have our memorandum of understanding with Sumner County. However, their director will be on maternity leave soon, and they will be short-staffed, so I don't know that they will be serving Trousdale County. They did give me contact information for the Tennessee Department of Veterans Affairs that I will share with commissioners and the public, that they can reach out and contact them. We also have it posted around the administration building for veterans. And then, like I said, incoming administration can decide how they want to proceed. But we just got notice of that, and he actually had to backdate his resignation date to coincide with his start at this company, because that was their policy. So it was effective of the 19th, but we just didn't know it here the last couple of days. So I just want to update the commission on that. And also the Tennessee Corrections Institute came and did a reinspection of the jail. We did not pass due to overcrowding at the jail. We are going to be required to submit a plan of action to the Tennessee Corrections Institute's Board of Directors. And if they accept the plan, then we will be under a plan with conditional certification of our jail, and we have be under what's called a plan of action. Mr. Bob Bass with Tennessee Corrections Institute is here to speak a little bit more about what that means to be under a plan of action. And at this time, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask him to come up and speak, because we have a architectural contract for a new facility later on the agenda, but it's not directly related to the plan of action. So I would like him to come up and address what that means to be under a plan of action at this time. So,
Mr. Bass, without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I must say, this is one of the warmest welcomes I've ever had at a county commission meeting. And trust me, over my 32 years in this business, I've been to thousands. So I know you're working on it. You're going to get it fixed. We inspected the jail, Tennessee Corrections Institute did, August the 19th. Now, we are the governing body that comes around and certifies the facilities. We are compliance. We're not regulatory. So if a jail wants to comply, they meet the standards, 430 some odd standards. If a jail, according to Tennessee code, cannot do that on our initial inspection, we can come back in 60 days to let them fix whatever needs to be fixed. We did that. We returned on June 23rd, and you have an overcrowding. Of course, it's primarily in the female section of the jail. The law allows for you to file a plan of action, which means basically a plan of correction, whatever that may be, what that might look like. It takes different forms. You could have a brand new jail that is overcrowded, so they just simply need to do something about their population, or sentencing, alternative sentencing, or just move inmates. In this particular jail, my records indicate it was built when I was 3 years old, and I'm 67. So this jail's got a lot of problems, physical plant wise. When you put more people, or almost the same amount of people a jail has, in other words, if it holds 50 people and you put 50 people in it, you can no longer meet classification. Now, classification deals with the fact that where am I going to put the compatibles with the non-compatibles? And presently right now, you have an inmate in another county because the sheriff just doesn't feel like the jail meets its needs. And I agree with him. A very serious crime, terrible offense. So let me say this. I usually get invited to these parties on this night, the first time. When I hold these reports out, I come to the counties and say, the sky's falling. I have to do the Chicken Little speech, right? And I hate that. I feel really good about coming to this county and talk about it because this commission in this county has been proactive. I'm the coordinator for a voluntary initiative called the County Corrections Partnership. It's been in existence approximately 6 years, and your county's already done that. I've had the opportunity to come and educate the people on that panel about jail operations, and I want to continue that. So my suggestion tonight would be, as the new commission gets seated, the new mayor comes in, I'd be more than willing to come down and talk about jail operations and talk about in particular what your problems are at your jail. It's all about education. So you have done way past the curve. Your commission has visited other jails. They've talked to architects. So my hats are off to you. I've never had a county do that. Never. It's always, I come when it's too late, right? And then we've got to start. The thing to remember is this: when you're talking about a jail being built in your county, you're 3 years away if you decided right now to do it. So what kind of shape is your jail going to be in? What kind of overcrowding issues are you going to be faced? What's happening to the physical plant? You know, I have a video, and I know your residents here, so you've seen the flooding, but I have video where the water's right up to the back door. It's just amazing to me you're in that floodplain. So the new mayor gets indoctrinated on the 7th of September. We'll have to come to Nashville, 6 days in office, and stand in front of our board of control, who make the decision about whether they're going to let you do the plan of action or not. I support that. That is part of my job as deputy director for TCI. I feel very confident with the proactive you've been down here and the way you've worked and the things you've done. They're going to agree to do that. Now, what they expect in years to come, excuse me, in years to come is measurable progress. So you start the process, till next year. You'll be certified until we come again next year. And then we look at it again and see where you're at. If you still need to remain on the plan, we look at what you've done. So, but again, I feel very comfortable coming down here tonight and talking about it. You've been so proactive, realizing that jail is 1957. I like to sum it up by saying this. We have 126 facilities in the state of Tennessee that we have to inspect. 2 of those jails still standing are where the sheriff's residence was. There are only 2 left in the state of Tennessee, and you own one of them. Now, the sheriffs aren't living in them anymore, right? But you've got one, Clay County's the other, Clay County. So the living room is a dispatch now. I think your living room is operations, right, for the jail. I really appreciate all the work I've got to do with the mayor, yourself, Mr. Chairman Jewell, and the commissioners, the judges I've talked to, the DAs, and our visits down here. And I want to continue that working relationship moving forward. I think it's a good idea to get your new commissioners in tune, let them see the studies that have been done, let them see some of my work so they can make a conscious decision about moving forward on the jail. After all, you all want to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money.
Thank you, sir. We
Thank
appreciate
you. Thank
Thank you.
you for having me here, and I hope to be back when the air conditioning's fixed.
it. I'm sure you will. Mayor, back to you.
Well, as I said, we working with Mr. Bass and the sheriff, we did submit a plan of action, just talked about everything we've done and that we were looking at a new facility, all the steps we've taken, and that was submitted to TCI. They sent it to their board of control, and they will consider it at that meeting Mr. Bass mentioned on September 7th to see if they're going to give us a conditional certification for our jail or not. Then we will have to make, I believe, regular reports and talk about our status and what we're doing going forward. So I just wanted to have Mr. Bass and address the commission to kind of go a little bit more in depth what a plan of action means. So, and then the last thing I have is that it's been a pleasure serving as mayor of Trousdale County for the last 4 years. I know we've had pandemics and a lot of other things pop up. There was a mayor in another county that said he's been in local government 30 years and never seen anything like the last few years. So I know it's been something to deal with. You got a lot of challenges coming up, a lot of hard decisions to make in the future, and I wish everyone the best of luck going forward. Just always remember to do what's best for the citizens, and I think you'll be okay.
Let's give Mayor Chambers a round of applause, please. Thank you. Next, we'll go into our committee reports. First, have Parks and Rec met August 16th. Commissioner Gregory.
Yeah, we did meet August the 16th. It was pretty lengthy, so I'm just gonna hit the high spots here. First, we did have enough for a quorum. Then we reviewed the minutes from the July 21st meeting, and they was approved with no additions or corrections. The next discussion was the pool season. We'll get total expenses for the pool for the year was $48,537.53. Total revenue $26,863.25. Has a total loss of income of $21,674.28. But big port or $7,000 of that loss was we had to get a new pool pump. $4,230 was what we had to get lifeguard certifications and all that. So after you take them two big expenses out, it's probably about the same as we've usually had about every year. We do have a loss for the pool season. Then we discussed our pool is probably going to have to be updated. Mr. Sled went to Macon County, Lafayette. They looked at their new pool. They had put a new pool liner in up there and done a lot of renovations and all. They did put a liner in. We either gonna look at that or maybe he's resealing or putting epoxy on what we got down here and redoing this down here, but we're gonna discuss that in next coming months in the Parks and Rec Committee. Next thing, we talked about the playground, Trey Park playground grant. That afternoon, the mayor had received information that we got the contract from TDAC for $600,000 as a match from the state's part. And he was recommending that Kinley and Horn be the engineering firm that oversees all this, and the professional services committee has selected Kinley and Horn too. So the Parks and Rec Committee is recommending for us, the commission tonight, to approve Kinley and Horn to oversee this project. Next thing we talked about was the disc golf. that was brought back up. I had a guy here, Les Norwood, talking about the fund that they had received and how much they would need to more to try to get this up and going. I think one of our members donated some money that night to where they could get up and going. They asked when they could start. And they said just as soon as they could. One of our other commissioners was going to go around and try to help fundraise. And I think he's done that. I don't know if he's had any luck or not, but we're trying to move forward with the disc golf. And I guess that's about all the highlights of the big points of it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Gregory? Next, Budget and Finance met on August 22nd. We reviewed the trustee cash balance statement, the financial summaries of all the projected fund balances. There was no anomalies noted, anything that looked out of line. Most of the revenue accounts exceeded what the projections were, and expenditures were less than what was budgeted pretty much across the board. Fund balance is not quite as much going into the year as it was at the beginning of last year, but we had some large last minute expenditures that hit us kind of hard with the garbage truck that we paid for, some things that we tried to go ahead and pay for. We were able to retire some debt a bit early, and we're thankful for being able to do that. We do see that the interest rates on the variable interest notes, what few we do have, is trending upwards a bit. And that is as expected, I guess you would say. We did have a little of a situation with our sales tax collections back in June. We felt they dropped like a rock. And evidently the state had some accounting problems on their end, and that was corrected. So we did wind up with our sales tax collections being pretty strong for the year. We did have some budget amendments that were all sent forward to the full body that are on your agenda for later on tonight. Do have one request on ARPA spending approval for a request that we'll take up a little later as well. That was approved and sent forward to the full body. I believe that was it. Did I miss anything? Anyone? I believe that was the highlights of it. It was a good year. We had a good year. Don't believe there's any other committee reports. Was there anything else? Anyone? Did we overlook anything? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into our active business. First item is Resolution 2022-21-765. This is a resolution to authorize the mayor to sign a contract on the gas. Is this the gas company? Let me get to the right page here. Sorry. This is the resolution on the three pending contracts: the TDEC Local Parks and Rec grant of $600,000, the Kimley Horn Design Services for Trey Park, and Spirit Architectural Engineering Services for the Criminal Justice Center. The last two, Professional Selections Committee did look at those, and that was their recommendations. That did go before everyone earlier as well in the steering. Does anyone have any questions on those? What's the will of the body? Mr. Gully, you recognize.
Can we look at those separately, or do we have to take them as a whole here in this resolution?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
I asked, can we look at those separately, or do we have to take them all as three in this resolution?
I think we can look at them separately. We'd have to change the resolution to read for whichever ones that were approved. But I don't think it would be out of order to look at them individually. Which one, is there one in particular that you wanted to pull or talk about?
I'd certainly like to talk about the jail contract, the Spirit Architect contract up front. I guess it's not really a jail contract, but it's a proposal in this case for a contract to look at a selection. I guess at this point, what I'm saying is I'd like to pull those apart and we look at each of those individually. Is what I'd like to do. The Kimley Horn, which is the part, and the gas pipeline, I think you said in this case. No, that's what I thought exactly. What were you talking about gas pipeline? That's what I thought too. So I got confused there in this case, just to be honest with you.
That's why I
I'd like
corrected
to
it.
pull the three apart and look at them individually. We've got the TDEC, the Kimley Horn, and the Spirit Architect.
TDEC Local Parks Recreation Grant funding of $600,000. This is a matching grant. We put up $600,000 out of our ARPA funds to receive $600,000 from TDEC for improvements to Trey Park. I'll open the floor for discussion on this one. Seeing, hearing, no discussion, I guess that one's okay then. Sir, ma'am, Mr. Walsh?
So if we're doing it individually, make a motion to approve. Are we going to do them individually or can we, since the agenda was already set, can you actually do that?
I think we can discuss them individually, then we can have a motion to take whichever ones that we want to include in the resolution. I believe that's correct. I think that would be in order. Will of the body. Is there any discussion on number one? Okay. Number two, Kimley Horn Design Services for Trey Park. I'll give a brief explanation as best I can. Kimley Horn, we had, I believe it was three, Mayor, two companies respond to our request for qualifications on this project. We only had two to look at and pick from. They both gave us a presentation of their qualifications. Professional Selections Committee met, and we each one individually scored those applications that were presented to us. And the high scoring firm was Kimley Horn Design Services. I think maybe the reasons that one person scored them high was not necessarily the reason someone else scored them high from discussions we've had, but that was the recommendation of that committee. Any questions on that one? Are there questions on that one? Mr. Gully?
That's who all was on that committee.
On that committee was myself, the mayor, and Mr. Saleh, because he would be the one that's most knowledgeable of the park and be working with that group. Professional Selections Committee, as defined, is the mayor, chairman of the commission, and whoever we select to be the third person. Is that correct, Mayor?
Yes, sir, it is. And that is required process if we have grants. That is the ordinance that was passed quite a few years ago by the county commission. So that's a process you have to go through if we're receiving grants.
The paperwork, I know we had some discussion about this at work sessions, that anyone that'd like to see the scoring sheets and what we looked at in their packet just to get with Amy this last week. Sorry, I don't have that with me, but certainly had the opportunity to look at it. So that's that one. Are there other questions on it? Okay. And this is just to have them do the design work. There will be public meetings with the commission for input, what to do. And they're not going to decide what we build, how we build it, or how much we spend. They're just going to give us a design. based on the information that we give them. Okay. All right, number 3 was Spirit Architecture Engineering Services for the Criminal Justice Center. I believe we had 5 firms respond on that, 5 architectural firms that we looked at and scored. Very much the same thing. Prior to doing this, we did do a lot of visits. We asked them to tell us jails, criminal justice facilities that they had all done in the state, in the area. And several of us went out and toured those and looked at them and was able to be there with the architects, the various architects, and ask them questions and see things that we liked or did not like. That committee, that professional selections committee, was myself, the mayor, and the sheriff, Sheriff Russell. And we were the ones that had went to a lot of the tours of the jails. Commissioner Burton went, the mayor, jail administrator Scruggs was with us on a few of them. Am I overlooking anyone, Mayor?
There was a member of the medical services staff that went with us to, I think, at least one.
So I think the scoring on that was Spirit came out on top. The second one, I think it was not too far behind on it, if I'm remembering correctly. And then the other 3 kind of wound up basically between those 2 or 3. Spirit Architecture is one of the larger firms that does this type of work. I mean, that's kind of one of their specialties is correctional facilities and jails. They probably designed and built more than anyone else in the area. Ms. Overman?
I'd like to make a motion to postpone this to next month, all 3 of them.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to postpone this till next month by Ms. Overman and a second by Mr. Gully. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Mayor?
the contract beginning date that CDEC sent us has a begin date of September 15th. And they were really wanting to go ahead and get this in place, and that they were also asking us to get the design firm in place so that we can hit the ground and start designing this facility on September 15th. So if you postpone that, I mean, you're pushing it off for another month, and they're gonna have to go back and rewrite the contract. At least that provision of it. And we've been talking about this for months and months and months. We knew it was coming.
Any further discussion? Okay, we do have a motion to postpone the vote on this till next month's agenda, next month's meeting. It was duly seconded. So if you're in favor of putting this off to next month, please vote yes. And if not, please vote no. Are we ready on the vote? Are all votes in? Who is MB? Huh? Everybody's in. Please record the votes. 15 no, 4 yes. So we will continue. Is there another motion?
Yes. Motion to approve all 3 on this agenda item, resolution 2022-21765.
Do have a motion to approve all 3 on this resolution. Mr. Harsh gets a second. Have a motion by Mr. Ferguson, a second by Mr. Harsh. Is there further discussion on this? Okay. Yes, sir.
Comment. My reasoning for that second a few minutes ago, I could go fine with the first 2 here. We've talked a lot I spent a lot of time discussing 1 and 2. The second one seems as if we're handing off an issue without any discussion on where the funding is going to come from, where the situation is going to get started, without even knowing if we're bound to this contract. I've read the contract pretty well on the third one. And seems like quite a few individuals that are in this commission that may be leaving this commission are making a choice right now to hand something off for somebody else to deal with. My second, and reasoning for my second on that earlier, and where I was going to go if I hadn't been beat to the punch on that, was to pull out the third piece of this. You vote your mind here tonight, but it's quite a few in this commission that will be taking a different role in the future. And I certainly hope we're not going to hand something off for others to try to figure out without having any plan in place.
Thank you, sir. Mayor.
And this contract does not hand anything off. You're handing a consultant to come in and help you look at your options, get cost estimate, which is something you're talking about, what's this going to cost? So they're doing basically the same thing that Kimley Horn's going to help you with on the LPRF grant. They're just a consultant firm. You're not approving going ahead and building any kind of facility. You're hiring a consultant to come in and help you look at what your needs are. What is the will of not only this commission, but other stakeholders, including our County Corrections Partnership Committee that we've established in coordination with TCI that Mr. Bass mentioned a while ago, just to get them in there so we can start getting questions to some of these answers to some of these questions and start moving forward on this. You're not handing control off. Every penny spent will have to be authorized by this commission, and any steps going in the forward will have to be authorized by the county commission. So you're not handing anything off. You still have complete control of it going forward. You're just saying if we go forward and we're using a firm to get these answers, this is the firm we are going to use. So I just wanted to address that. And then as far as the funding for it, we're getting $300,000 from Core Civic every year, and you can use that money to pay these engineering fees, and it won't take a single penny of taxpayer dollar. Right now, we're sitting on currently $600,000 we've gotten from Core Civic, so that should carry you pretty far in as far as going with this architectural firm.
Thank you, Mayor. The questions that we continually get is, where are we going to put it? What's it going to cost? All of those type questions we can't not answer until we have someone in position to get the answers to those questions. Mr. Gelli, one more time.
Mr. Gully, thank you, sir. I would like to propose that we amend the motion to exclude number 3, leaving number 1 and number 2 in this resolution.
Ask the maker of the motion if you consider that a friendly amendment or not.
No, it stands as is.
Okay, we will take the motion as it was presented and vote on it. If it's voted down, certainly we can take another one. Okay. All right. Y'all ready to vote on this? The motion was to approve all 3 so that the mayor can sign these contracts so that we can entertain these firms and things. Okay. It was made by Mr. Ferguson. It was seconded by Mr. Harsh. If you're in favor of it, please vote yes. If you're not, vote no. Are all votes in? We're in the vote, Mr. Ford. Okay, are all votes in? Anyone wish to change their vote? Please record the vote. 15 yes, 4 no. This resolution is approved. You want to say anything now?
I just wondered why you didn't recognize his amendment to the motion.
Because the maker of the original motion that was on the floor did not consider it what's the word I'm stumbling over, a friendly amendment. It was contrary to what his stated motion was.
Order 2.
No, sir, it's not. If you'll read it, I think you'll find that that's the way it works. Once a motion has been made and seconded, and it is on the floor for discussion, an amendment can be made if the maker of the original motion considers it a friendly amendment, then it can be allowed and we would vote on the amendment. If it was not considered a friendly amendment, then it's not. And I believe that's correct. And we've run into this before, and that's what we've researched and looked at and came up with. Original, and who determines? Robert even says, who determines that is the maker of the original motion. Okay, so that's why, and that's why we did it that way. Move on. Next, we'll get into ordinances on first readings. First is ordinance 254, 2022-24. This is a request for rezoning a partial on Belcher Lane from two parcels from A1 to R1. Any questions on this one? Mr. Edwards is here to answer any questions we might have. Ms. Atwood?
Motion to approve.
We do have a motion to approve by Ms. Atwood. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Whitaker. Any further discussion on this? Any questions on this? This is our first reading. We will have, of course, a second reading next time. Mr. Edwards, you're recognized.
I did bring all the legal descriptions for the 1 acre that's being requested, so I'm gonna drop them off the tables if y'all can pass them out, put them in your folder and keep them.
Appreciate you doing that. And let's see, Mr. Gully. On the
Did I miss it?
ordinance, it says this rezoning request is recommended by Planning Commission on August 8th, 2022. And there will be a public hearing is set and scheduled on this one for September 26th.
So when did we get this? When did we stop getting and receiving the plan of recommendations?
When the secretary of the Planning Commission had a tragedy in her family and was unable to be at that meeting and not give it to us
So,
on all of them.
thank you.
But that is the why. I'm sorry. I thought everyone was aware of that. Thank you, Sam. Any other discussion or questions on this one? Y'all making my last meeting difficult. We do have a motion and a second to approve it. Let's please record your vote. Yes to approve it, no if you don't want to. Are all votes in? Please record the vote. 19 yes, 0 no, it is approved. Next is first reading on ordinance 255, 2022-25. This is a request for rezoning R1 to R3 on located on Western Avenue. And this one, I believe, was not recommended by the Planning Commission at their August 8th meeting. Any questions on this one? We do have the property owners here. If they wish to speak, we'll be glad to hear from them. And Sam, certainly if you have anything you'd like to add to this, please let us know. Go ahead.
If anybody's not sure which property is, it's the old running track that's down there behind the old boot factory.
Mr. Ford?
Is this the property to the water plain? Floodplain?
There is a portion of the property that is in the floodplain. It's the 100-year floodplain that's fixable with construction.
We changed it up to where we got it out of the floodplain as well.
The proposed projects outside of the floodplain either way, but the floodplain is fixable.
Ms. Jones?
The reasoning it wasn't approved? Why was it not approved?
Give me a second.
Can you answer that?
I'm trying to recollect properly. I
Thank you.
don't want to speak out of turn.
Sure.
They did not agree with apartments being in the area, was their decision. So there's more to that, but the basic is they didn't agree with that area having apartments.
We had this come up a couple of years ago, I believe. I don't know how long ago. And at that time, it was zoned industrial. And we took it to R1. I think even then the request was for R3. And so this piece of property has been before us before in recent time and was rezoned to the R1 to allow residential development on it instead of industrial. After a 1-year wait, we can revisit it. They can ask for us to revisit it, and that's what they're doing. Part of the issues is that all of the area surrounding it, a lot of the area surrounding it is R1. And that was, I think, the main motivation for planning, not recommending it. Also, the issues with the floodplain, the original plat, I think that they had shown as a preliminary plat showed some of the buildings actually in that, but they have relocated those or plan to relocate those so that they would not be. But that's my understanding. That's my remembrance in reviewing the tape. Mr. Noller, you remember that body? Does that sound correct to you, sir?
At that time, back 2 or 3 years ago, we had a courtroom full of people that was subjecting to it be going to they wanted it to stay residential, and they wanted apartments back then, I believe.
All right. Sam, did you have something else?
No, you're correct on what you've stated. My opinion at the meeting, if you watch the video, was that this property is located behind the old boot factory, which I get lots of complaints on. It's an eyesore. The track that's there now is normally a hayfield. It's allowed to grow. We have new owners that have purchased the property. They're requesting to go to R3, and they're wanting to do the site plan that I was provided. They're wanting to do apartment units. And if everything works out properly, then those apartments will also have access to a private pool for those apartments. So I think it's an improvement for the area. It'll turn a hayfield that's next to an eyesore into something that looks better. So that was my opinion at the meeting.
Wholeheartedly agree with that. Mr. Buckmaster, you're recognized.
Yes, right. Planning Commission's reasoning doesn't make sense to me other than the floodplain, which, as Sam mentioned, you can construct out of that. But if you go right across the street, you got commercial industrial with a funeral home, you've got a subdivision on Hilltop and Carr Street, you put a whole bunch of apartments in behind it. What's the difference? Keep in mind, I'm speaking to this knowing, if you know where I live at, when I walk out my front door, I'm gonna be looking at it, and I just soon look at a nice apartment as a hayfield. That's my point of view on it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Marcelino, did you want to say anything? Or please tell us who you are, sir.
Yeah, there we go. Yes, I'm Alan Dixon. Would be one of Mr. Marcelino's business partners. I actually when we were here last week, we wanted to just hear everybody's thoughts and concerns. And while we were here, one of really the primary concern that we had heard was the flood zone. So we wanted to hear that. And one of the concerns was, is there enough room outside of the flood zone that you can build them? So we actually went back and reconfigured what you see there. There's plenty enough room to do so. And one of the visions we had for the property is, like you mentioned, because of the floodplain, it's not a lot of people has wanted to put R1 or any kind of single family. Plus to build out of it is kind of not very cost effective when you're putting a single family home. So we wanted to try to create a space that people would really enjoy living at. So if you notice on there, one of our visions, one of the things we'd like to do is on this side with the flood area. You don't have to, you can build a pool in a flood area if you have to. And so even if we had to build that out, we could. We're wanting to allow a place for the kids to play, to have a kids playground. And overall, we just think that there's a really good opportunity to create a nice living space. Oftentimes, whenever you're building, just 8 units or 16 units, there's nothing wrong with that when you're doing that with apartments. But it's hard to do things like put in a nice pool or put in a kids area. It's just not very cost effective. But if we were able to do something along these lines, it gives you the opportunity to just to improve it to that point. We want to create something people want to come back to. So given the concerns we heard last week, that we moved it all out of what would be the flood area. Now, one of the typos is I did accidentally put 74. It would be 72 because according to the codes, I saw it was 12 units per gross acre, and there's just over 6 acres. So if you have any questions, I'd love to hear it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, commissioners? Mr. Gregory?
The residents in that area at the last meeting you had discussing this?
I don't believe Mr. Marcelino owned it when the last time they tried to rezone it to R3. I think that was the previous owners.
The public hearing on this will be next month, and of course it will be posted and announced in the paper. And this is just first reading for kind of a preliminary approval. Any other questions? Okay, what's the will of the body? Do I have a motion? Mr. Buckmaster?
Given the reasons already stated, you have basically the same identical unit across McMurray from this. I'd like to make a motion. We approve it.
Do have a motion to approve, Ms. Jones? To have a second by Ms. Jones. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Please record your vote, yes or no. Motion was to approve. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their votes? All votes in. Please record the votes. 14 yes, 5 no. It is approved on first reading, and it will be public hearing, second reading at next month's meeting. Next, we have ordinance 256, 2022-26. This is a request for rezoning a parcel from A1 to R1 on Dalton Hollow. It's indicated by your map here. Sam, is there anything you need to tell us about this one? This was approved by planning, I believe. Yes, it was.
This property, the A1 to R1, there is several lots surrounding it that is also R1 already. So it's not an inappropriate request. He is requesting something that is in existence surrounding him already.
If you look at your map, you can see that most of this is a residential area with the exception of this big block out of it. It would be in keeping with the rest of the area. Mr. Harsh?
Move to approve.
Mr. Ferguson? Do have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? We ready to vote? Please record your vote. Yes or no? Are all votes in? Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, please record the vote. 17 yes, 2 no. It is approved. It will go to second reading and public hearing next month. Next is ordinance 257, 2022-27. This is rezoning request from A1 to R1. This is, I believe, basically for correction. Is that correct, Sam? Can you tell us about this?
Thank you, Amy. There is a split on a portion of this that is currently a different zoning. So it splits a lot in half. This would be a partial correction of some of it, and then the rest of it is a request to match the other lots that are surrounding. This is actually very close to the one that we just looked at. So this is part of that whole farm and subdivision on the other side of the road that will be, if approved, going to R1.
All of this has road frontage on Highway 141 and Harris Branch. Is that
Yes, it's
correct?
double road frontage.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Ford,
Make motion to approve.
have a motion. Mr. Gully? Have a motion and a second to approve. Any further questions, discussion? You ready? Please record your vote. Are all votes in? Mr. Gully? There we go. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Please record the vote. 17 yes, 2 no. This one does pass. It will go to second reading and public hearing next month. Next one is ordinance 258, 2022-28. This is rezoning request from R3 to I1. This is on Harper's Avenue. This is the property directly, I guess you'd say, in the center of the block, behind Foodland, behind the administration building, adjacent to the concrete ready mix plant and where the printing company is now. I believe the history on this one is we rezoned this at the owner's request some time back. They had planned to build townhomes. Then the printing company wanted to buy this property, expand their business. So they're asking that it goes back to I1 so they can expand their building on it. Is that correct, Sam? Anything you need to add on this, Sam?
That's correct. They're adding an addition to the current existing building. It will be out towards the back. And the issue is the addition that they're adding actually goes over between 5 and 10 feet into the other zoning area. So it's splitting the zoning line, which I'm not going to allow them to do until we get it fixed. They can't split a line.
Thank you. Mr. Buckmaster?
Move to approve as presented.
Have a motion by Mr. Buckmaster. Mr. Gully,
Just had a question on it real quick.
please.
I drove by the other day to give it a look. It looks like construction has already started.
They can do site prep. You can flatten your property all day long. You could go out and flatten your property and move dirt around and make a pond or smooth out your yard. So they can, once the pad that the goal on a lot of this is you need to see what you're working with. So when they dug down to get the pad to where they wanted it, they figured out where it would sit best. And now we know how far it's going to be pushing over that line.
Mr. Ford? Do have a second. We have a motion by Mr. Buckmaster and a second by Mr. Ford. Is there further discussion or questions? Mr. Gregory?
At our work session, it was, they said the planning commission had disapproved it, but then they said they thought they had approved it. Can we get a clarification on that?
Yes, we did. I'm sorry, I should have told you that. It was approved by planning. There was some confusion on this one. This was approved by planning. Okay. Anything else? Are we ready to vote? Please record your vote. Are all votes in? Please record the vote. 19 yes, 0 no. It is approved on first reading and will proceed to public hearing and second reading next month. Next, we'll move into public hearing and second reading on some other zoning. If I can get to the right page here. Open the public hearing on ordinance 250-2022-20. This is a request for rezoning R2 to R3 parcels up on Stott Street and Morrison Street. It's where this was approved last month on first reading. And we do have someone signed in to speak to this ordinance. Mr. Oliver, if you would mind coming up to the podium here, sir.
Well, yes, my wife and I we own the adjoining property, and I was not aware that this is going to be rezoned until I just saw it in the paper this week. We should have spoken up earlier, which brings me to the point that there might be a better way to let people know in the neighborhood. You don't post signs, I believe. Maybe let people on adjoining properties get a letter in the mail to know this is up for discussion. But anyway, we own a property there, and this is a nice residential area with single family home units there. And we don't like the idea of a multi-family unit going in there. And, you know, this becomes rental property, and it's a really nice, quiet neighborhood as it is. And, you know, as a property owner next to it, we're against it. That's all there is to it. I do think you have an obligation to ask the people in the neighborhood what they think. I don't know if anyone else has expressed an opinion, but it's just going to become rental property. It's a multi-unit, I guess, apartment complex, townhouse, right?
I'm not sure.
Well, see,
what
you're
the-
not sure. I'm not sure either.
But right, R2 is right now can put a duplex on it.
That's the largest thing.
R3 has closer setbacks. It gives you a bigger building envelope as to where you can site build it. And it would allow multi-family, which could be townhomes, 3 units or up. And that would be determined by the size of the lots as to what the maximum number would be.
So right now, what is the max that could be put on there?
Sam? 3.
Sorry, Mr. Oliver. So with the current configuration, realistically, with the shape of it, 3. Might be able to squeeze in a 4th if they're really tiny. But with the current configuration the way it is, you could put one going off of Stotts Avenue, one going off of Morrison, and then a lot next door will have potentially another one on Morrison.
So as it is now, you could put a duplex, you could put 2 on there or 2 single family. If this passes, you could put a maximum of 3 units on it. There'd still be residential units. And I believe Mr. Moreland is here, and, you know, he's the requester. If you want to ask questions of what his intentions are, what his plans are, address them to him.
Our opinion is that it's a nice neighborhood of single family dwellings, and we like to see it stay that way. I have no problem with someone building on it, but we'd rather it not be a rental property. There you go.
Well, there's no way that we can control what is rental or what is not. You could build a single family house and rent it. I mean, there's no way that that's relevant. And we did in our first, Mr. Oliver, last month, we did have Mr. Claiborne, Johnny Claiborne did speak against this, I believe, or that may have been another one up there in the area. Was that another one? Different one. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting confused. Sam?
So on June 27th, y'all approved the rezoning R3 on the Morrison Street side, which is almost directly across the street. So there's property across the street that will have 2 townhomes on it placed on that. So we have already rezoned across the street to R3.
Mr. Ford?
My question is, when did we quit putting signs up so the people would know that zoning was about to take place?
Sam, can you answer that?
So the county ordinance does not state that signs have to be placed up for anything except for a gun range. And we do not have a gun range. So the state law said signs don't have to be put up. It needs to be posted in the paper once. We post it in the paper twice. It goes on the Facebook page and goes on the website. So we were over and beyond any state regulations on how we publish our rezonings.
Mr. Clarity.
On the paperwork we've got here, it says they're wanting to build a townhouse. That was a question, what was brought up. So that's what he's requesting to build, and that's what we voted on the last time.
Townhouse is a type of residential dwelling. It can have, they can be attached at the sides. They have to be open at the front and the rear. It's not the same as an apartment. It's a whole different type thing. It is considered a residential, single-family dwelling in a multi-residential development. Is that correct, Sam?
That is correct. Mr. Ford, to expand upon that, because I don't think I've talked to you personally about the signs, but the signs are costing us a lot of money because we're still posting in the paper, putting on the Facebook page and the website, and the signs are getting mowed every time they get put out. I've called the state about it. I've called our road crew about it, and there's no way to get them replaced other than just keep buying them. So the state doesn't care. They say, take it up with the contractors that are mowing.
That answer your question, Mr. Ford? Thank you, sir. Public hearing still in fact. Anyone else? Have no one else signed in? Is there a motion, Mr. Harsh?
Close public
Have a
hearing.
motion to close the public hearing and a second by Mr. Gully, I believe it was. Any further discussion? All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Public hearing is closed. Now we will entertain a motion on ordinance 250-2022-20. This rezoning request that we just discussed. What's the will of the body? Mr. Clarity.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Mr. Clarity, second by Ms. Atwood. Any further discussion? Yes, it was. This was recommended by planning. Do have a motion duly second. Any other questions? Okay. Ready to vote? Please record your vote. Okay, looks like all votes are in. Please record the vote. 19 yes, 0 no. This one is approved on second and final reading. Next, we'll move into ordinance 251-2022-21. This is the Piedmont Gas Franchise Agreement Renewal. We do this every, I don't know, 20, 25, 5,000 years or something like that. But it's time for this agreement to be renewed. Mr. Gully. Have a motion approved by Mr. Gully. Mr. Ferguson, I believe, was next. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. We need to do public hearing. I got ahead of myself. Back up. Shoot me. I would open the public hearing on ordinance 251-22-21. Is there anyone here to speak to this? No one signed in. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak? Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this? Please state your name, sir.
Paul Harness. I was informed that the building over here, I think it's 199 Broadway, is going to be just tore down because of damaged foundation.
Sir, that has nothing to do with this ordinance. This is on a gas franchise agreement that we need to enter into with Piedmont Gas Company. Yeah, no, we'll have time at the end, but right now this is on this ordinance. Okay, we'll get to you in just a minute. Be patient, sir. Mr. Walsh,
Motion to close public hearing.
have a motion to close the public hearing, second by Ms. Atwood. Public hearing, all in favor of closing it, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Gully, you're recognized.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion approved by Mr. Gully, Ms. Atwood. Have a second by Ms. Atwood. Any further discussion on this one? Seeing none, we ready to vote? Please record your vote. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Please record votes. 19 yes, 0 no. This is approved. Next, we'll open the public hearing on ordinance 252, 2022-22. This is to do an update on the Title 11 municipal offenses. We've been dealing with this for some time, trying to get some of these old City of Hartsville ordinances updated so that they're more applicable and they can be used. Are there any questions on this? I'm sure Mayor Chambers can, or Mr. Beller can enlighten us. This has been through committee. It was recommended. Mr. Beller, I believe you've looked this over and you concur with this. Are there any questions on it? Will of the body. Ms. Atwood.
To approve.
Have a motion to approve. I'm sorry, close the public hearing. Motion to close the public hearing by Ms. Atwood and second by Ms. Gregory. I always stumble over these public hearing things. I'm sorry. I'm just old. It could be the heat. All in favor of closing public hearing, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. We'll entertain a motion on ordinance 252, 2022-22. Mr. Davis.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Davis. Ms. Atwood has a second. Any further discussion on this one? All in favor of this motion, let's vote. Please vote. When it's ready, there we go. Please record your vote. All votes in. Please record the vote. 19 yes, 0 no. That one is approved. Next is ordinance 253, 2022-23. Would like to open the public hearing on this ordinance. This is on the personnel policy revisions. And I believe we had some last minute changes to this. Okay, we're in the public hearing part of this right now. Mayor, can you explain what this amendment that was presented since our last reading on this one? Please.
Yes, sir. After we had our work session, a couple of days after we had our work session last week, an employee came to my office and asked a question. They are currently in the probationary period. And they said, the way this is written, it looks like the 80 hours when they become full-time on January 1st that they signed up for, and that's what they were under the impression they were going to get. It looks like that'll go away as soon as this policy is passed. And that was not the intention. I'm sure that was not the intention of this body. I remember we had several discussions and we didn't want anybody to lose anything. So that was not the intention. And I put together some policy, had Mr. Beller review it. And if you see in your packet or what was sent out to you, there is a new section 2 which basically reinserts the language we had before, saying that employees within the 10 years of service will get 2 weeks of 10 days of paid vacation per year if they're full time, and then 15 days if they're over 10 years of service, and that they will get no more than 10 years of 15 years of service. to make that fit with how we had set this up before, where we were going to go to fiscal year, we were going to have that continued until July 1st, 2023. So the intention was that up until July 1st, 2023, we would keep our current vacation policy. Our new policy would go into effect as far as earning time based on seniority on July 1st, 2023, and any unused hours from the previous leave would just roll over because they can accumulate up to different levels based on seniority. So they would not go away. They'd roll over into the new fiscal year under the policy. Mr. Beller reviewed that and it said it looked like that would be effective and do what that was intended to do and cover us as far as the employees we've had sign on here recently that signed a personnel policy, said they were going to get on January 1st, they were going to get 10 days. Some of those will not hit their 6-month probationary period until February or later. So there was a possibility of them losing a benefit that they had already signed on to receive. So we can't do that. So we extended that. That created a second question, was that as we had it drafted before, it said an employee cannot earn vacation time until they complete their 6-month probationary period. So then the question becomes, after July 1st, if you have somebody that completes a 6-month probationary period, it looks like they're starting at 0 hours of vacation and then we'll have to accumulate up. So what I'm proposing to do is, if the committee will accept it, is that they will get credit for the 6 months they served. So if their example is, if they're an 8-hour employee, once they complete their 6-month probationary period, they'll get 1 working day for each of the 6 months. So once they become eligible, they'll have 48 hours of vacation leave, then they'll start accruing on top of that. So that was the change. That was the reason for these proposed changes after on the language we've looked at previously. And like I said, that was based on a question of employee. It came to my office a couple of days after the work session. I have spoken to, I believe, all the department heads and elected officials. They all were in favor of this. I thought it was a good idea. I do have one question from Mr. Beller. I think he may have one more addition that needs to be put into this that I did not include. And that is, our current policy is that at the end of a calendar year, the employees do not carry over time. They lose it if they don't use it. Well, if the intention is to carry forward the current policy, I think, and I'll turn this over to Mr. Beller, I think we need to insert some language in saying that keep that what we're currently doing in place, is that the vacation must be taken in the calendar year with no carryover. So that's what our currently policy is. There was no language in here, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Beller if he wants to address that question.
Mr. Beller, you recognize.
Just briefly, the additional language with what you probably don't have in your packet is under item 2, and just my recommendation, last sentence before the paragraph, vacation must be taken in the calendar year with no carryover. Vacation time will be lost if not used within the calendar year. It brings it, of course, it's clarifying language and makes it consistent with what our practice is currently.
Would you say that one more time, please? I'm sorry, just what the change reads.
The proposed change that I would recommend is the last sentence under Part D, where it says vacation leave, and it begins with paragraph 2, where you've got the red lettering. At the very end of that paragraph, the language vacation must be taken in the calendar year with no carryover. Vacation time will be lost if not used within the calendar year. Of course, the parentheses after that, this subsection is effective until July 1, 2023 does not change.
Thank you, sir, for that clarification. We're still in the public hearing. Y'all, questions, commissioners, desire? I know this was talked about in personnel committees, my recollection. I think the wording as we first had it presented to us is, I think, what came out of committee. Is that correct, Mayor? Okay.
I'm sorry. On the copy you're looking at, if you see everything that is outside of the red, and I'm sorry, I think.
Okay, that's that.
Everything that is in red was what they were proposing to what is different than what you looked at the work session last week. Everything outside of that is in the black font, that is the same as what come out of personnel committee.
Okay. Mr. Ferguson, do you recall as chairman of personnel, any of the discussion on any of this?
Very little. I know there were some discussions about vacation time during the discussions as an overhaul. This is the second time since I have been on the commission that we have adjusted the personnel policies to this level. A question that I have about this is not about the topic itself, is because actually I agree with what is being presented. The question I have before us tonight is, we're halfway into this approving an ordinance which has to be approved twice. Therefore, since this is an adjustment to something, do you pass everything as it is as a second reading and then deal with this issue separately later? Because I don't know that we can adjust things as we go, since we've already had an approval of the personnel policy revisions. We're halfway there. We've already passed it once, and this is our second reading tonight. And so that is my question is, do we deal with this issue at a separate time after we pass the revisions that are already halfway there?
We can amend any ordinance until the final reading on it. Anything can be amended. It can be changed until the final reading. It does need to be presented, and someone would need to present it as an amendment to the previous, what was presented. And we would need to vote on, I guess you'd say, the red letters. That we're looking at the red letter edition. If it's the will of the body to add that into the previous copy of the ordinance that was, our version that was previously presented, or we can kick this back to committee. We can turn the whole thing down. We can pass it with just the black, irregardless of the red, and take up the red at a future date. So you have several options here, I think. I don't think I've misstated any of the options. Mayor, you think?
No, I think that's a pretty succinct statement of what the options are.
Okay, Mr. Ford.
Problem with the way it's written here, I'd just like to see it be written in there that it's taken that physical year. Has to be taken or it's lost. Because we done got into that once and paid out thousands and thousands of dollars.
I believe that's what Mr. Beller was saying needed to be added to the language. And that, I know that that has been a firm will of this body for a long time. No, it's not, but that's why the mayor and Mr. Beller said that it needs to be added into it. And we can add it into it if we want to add the red addition to what was previously presented. Mr. Ford.
To include that in this,
We can do that.
way at the end of the year, you take it or you lose it.
That would be part of that amendment,
Right.
sir. We are still in the public hearing.
We're still in public hearing. Doesn't matter. It's got to be done somewhere.
I will end the public hearing if we're through with our questions and want to move on. Mr. Harsh,
Close the public hearing.
have a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second? Mr. Taylor gets a second. All in favor of closing public hearing, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Public hearing is closed. Now we will entertain the amendment proposed by the mayor, which is the red letter addition with the addition of the statement that Mr. Beller said we need to add into that. Mr. Taylor.
Motion to approve the red letter edition.
Have a motion to approve the red letter edition. And Mr. Buckmaster, I believe you had requested to speak. Yes. That's what he said. Red letter with. Yeah. Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Is there a second? Mr. Burton makes a second. Now, Mr. Buckmaster, you wish to speak or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I had asked some time back for the Personnel Committee to address a particular issue I've had. Page 16, J2 says employees must work 40 hours before overtime takes effect. Vacation, sick leave, and personal time off will not count as time worked for overtime. I know the mayor sent out an email here sometime back saying that would require a budget amendment if we made the vacation count towards time worked. However, spoken with many emergency services personnel, both in our county and in other counties, this being one of the sticking points, go with the knowledge that we're already 6 paramedics down and 2 EMTs, and they're telling me that this is one of the major sticking points. I also like to point out that the commission approved battalion chief some years back so that if a person takes a vacation or is sick, that battalion chief takes their place on the truck. Therefore, it does not cost any extra money in that circumstance. Now, right now it will because they're understaffed. Keep in mind that I can't even quote the amount of money you're paying for the only 3 paramedics you have now working double shifts. So on that J2 on page 16, I'd like to take the word vacation off the second line and move it into the third line where it would say only vacation, holiday, administrative leave, and military leave will count as time worked.
Is that we have a motion on we'll have to vote on the original motion, but duly noted what your concerns are, and I think that can be taken up as an amendment. Yeah. Mr. Taylor.
I'm sorry, but I do need to amend my motion to include Mr. Beller's addiction regarding
Okay.
the red letter addition with Mr. Beller's statement. Thank you.
Okay, that was my understanding of what we were doing. Just want to be sure that's clarified. Everybody understand the motion? Okay. And we do have a second. This is to add the red letter to what's proposed tonight. Please record your vote. All votes in. What's the vote? 19 yes, 0 no. So we will be considering the second reading with this language included that was proposed and approved. Is there a motion on this? Mr. Ferguson.
Motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second? Mr. Burton makes a second. Okay. Any further discussion on this one? Seeing none, please record your vote. We're voting on approving this ordinance as amended. The motion was by Mr. Ferguson. The second was by Mr. Burton. Did I miss anything? All right, everybody record your vote, including me. All votes in, please tally the votes. 18 yes, 1 no, so this is approved. Next, we move into budget amendments. Budget amendments, the first one is 2023-101 Q1R. This is a budget amendment request for animal shelter to use some of the reserve funding to buy shelter building improvements, some kennels and some kennels, portable kennels to go or permanent kennels in their van. And this is their money. We're just moving it to where they can spend it for what they're requesting. It's $9,500. What's the will of the body? Mr. Walsh.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Mr. Walsh. Ms. Atwood
Second.
has a second. Is there questions or discussion? Please let me know. We ready to vote? Please record your vote. Okay. Anyone wish to change their vote?
Yes.
16 yes, 2 no. Mr. Noller, did you wish to vote? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Now, 16 yes, 2 no. It passes. Okay, we'll catch you on the next one. Clear it out. Okay. Next is 2023-101-02 FB. This is inmate medical care. This is money that we've received back. We have to put it in the proper category. This is a refund from the state that came in literally on the last day of last fiscal year, so it carried over in fund balance. We needed to pull it back out of that so it can go where it needs to. This is in the amount of $19,063.42. Mr. Taylor.
Approve.
Have a motion to approve by Mr. Taylor, second by Mr. Harsh. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Are you ready? Please record your vote. Okay. All votes in. Anyone wish to change their vote? Mr. Gully? All votes are in. Please record the vote. 19 yes, 0 no. It is approved. Next is budget amendment 2023-101-03 FB. This is for UT Ag salary supplements. This was a last minute change from the state legislature. Didn't hardly have enough money to fund this for the rest of the year. It would be a fund balance hit in the tune of $435. Mr. Gully.
To approve.
Mr. Walsh.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there questions? I'm trying to take them as I see them ring in here. Ms. Jones, do you have a question?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Trying to watch it. It's hard to watch the screen and watch everyone at the same time. Do have a motion and a second on this budget amendment. Are you ready? Please record your vote. Looks like all votes are in. Nope. Ms. Atwood? Okay. Are all votes in? Anyone wish to change their vote? Please record the vote. 19 yes, 0 no. It is approved. Next is a request for spending approval from our ARPA funds. This would be ARPA 12805. This is to help the Health Council set up a program for community mental and substance abuse program. This would be seed money out of the ARPA monies in the tune of $80,000 to fund this effort for 2 years. Mr. Harsh.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Mr. Harsh, a second by Mr. Walsh. Okay, any questions, discussion? All ready to vote? Please record your vote. All votes in. Please record the vote. 19 yes, 0 no. It is approved. Next, we have notaries. I have 3 notaries that came in. I can figure out what I did with them. Have Rita Crowder, County Clerk, Christina Ray, Farm Bureau, Rihanna Steele, Wheels and Deals, Auto Sales. Mr. Gregory, motion to approve. Mr. Gully, do you have a question or a second? Second. Okay. Is there any questions on these notaries? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll approve those notaries, Madam Clerk. Next, under other business, we have the TDOT right of entry authorization that they have requested on this property so they can look at it and prepare to demolish it or whatever. What's will? Mr. Harsh. Have a motion to approve by Mr. Harsh. Mr. Taylor gets a second. Any further questions or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, there was a member of the public, I think he just got up and walked out. Mr. Harness was here to speak on this item. I don't know if he can hear me or if he's gone. I believe he's already gone
He
downstairs.
didn't sign in to speak. I was going to let him speak under public comments at the end.
Well, this was the item. Anyway, I can address what his concern was. He and I have had
Okay.
several discussions on this. Mr. Harness feels that TDOT can repair the bridge without tearing down the building. And he asked me to push on TDOT and ask them if there was a way they could do that. I had conversations with somebody higher up in their engineering division, and they were adamant that they cannot do the repair work on the bridge with the building there. Plus, some of the property the building is currently on, they were going to build a retaining wall and some new stormwater drainage. So they're adamant that their project cannot be done with the building in its current look, with the building there. But I'm sorry, Mr. Harness.
I
Well-
appreciate it. Does he have interest in this building?
Other than he sees it has historical value from the uses of the past and some attachment to the people in the community. He wanted it preserved from a historical perspective, but I will say it is not included as a contributing building to our historic district. It was examined and said that it had no historic value to it, so it was not included in the historic district.
But he has no financial interest in this property.
No, sir, not to my understanding. It's just an interest as a member of the community to see not see a building in downtown be torn down. He has no financial interest in it that I know of.
This is not making a decision all this is doing is giving TDEC permission to go in there and look at the building and to further ascertain what needs to be done or not done. Mr. Gully.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Ms. Atwood has a second. Any further discussion or questions? Okay. I'm sorry. Mr. Harsh and Mr. Taylor made the motion to approve. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. Thank you. Are we ready to vote on this? Please record your vote. Yes to let them go in. No, you can't. Looks like all votes are in. Would you record the vote? 19 yes, 0 no. Surprise, surprise. Let's see. Next, that is approved. Next is acknowledgement of elected officials bond through PNRMT SEC. We are required to do this, and we just have to spread on the minutes that we've approved their bonds. Is that correct? Anything other than Mr. Gully? Have a motion to approve, Ms. Atwood? And we have a second now. All in favor? Do you want to go? Are you set? Let's just do it on voice vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Wow, surprise, surprise. Nobody was opposed. I believe that carries. Come to our public comment part of the night. Anybody wishing to speak to anything? I see no one. Next is oath of office for the elected officials. Whoops. Mr. Ferguson?
I just wanted real quick, because I am soon to become part of that public, to say thank you to the people from my district, District 8. I have served here for 16 years and have been honored to serve those people, and especially David Noller, Richard Johnson, who have been here the entire time that I've been here those 16 years. Going to be able to miss you guys. You did a great job. And Steve Whitaker, the other commissioner from my district. Steve, thank you so much. I just wanted to say that.
I think everyone that's leaving would echo those sentiments. We've all enjoyed serving and appreciate the opportunity. Judge, are you ready? You'll come up here to the podium. Any of the new officials, y'all want to come down here kind of as a group, and we can do this all in one whack. But if you would, just kind of get over there on that side, make you a little horseshoe right over there. Don't be bashful. Just remember, you asked for this. This is the newly elected and the current serving and newly elected. Is that correct, Rita? That would be your new commission. Yep. If you want to go over there. If you don't, you can sit at your chair or stand up there. You're going to have to stand up because you're going to stand up and swar. Judge, you want to just turn that podium around and maybe use that microphone or just turn the mic around? There we go. All right. New commissioners, and please at least stand up. Amber, that's you.
Should be 20 of you.
Mr. Johnson, that's you. Mr. Burton, that's you. There's plenty of room. Y'all come down in behind the mayor there if you need to.
Okay.
All right.
Is this everyone?
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26. Something's wrong.
3, 6,
I guess I can't count.
9, 10, 12.
Folks, if y'all want to come up here where you can get a picture, that's fine. Just, you know. Go stand with them. Why do you have to be so difficult?
Yeah, it's hard to be. Okay, if all of you will raise your hand, say your name and pronounce after me, please. I do solemnly swear that I will perform with fidelity the duties of the office to which I have been elected and which I am about to assume. I do solemnly swear to support the constitutions of Tennessee and the United States, and to faithfully perform the duties of the office of County Commissioners representing your district, whatever district you have, okay, for the District of Trousdale County, Tennessee. You have been duly sworn. Now, do you have the form, please?
And a fine looking bunch it is. Okay. And as the judge signs all the paperwork and everyone gets theirs, Mr. Walsh, you're recognized.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second by Mr. Harsh. All in favor, get up and leave.